There is no replacement for displacement, or as we say in Germany, Hubraum ist durch nichts zu ersetzen. Listen and repeat, Hubraum ist durch nichts zu ersetzen. Yeah, there's no replacement for displacement. And this is the scheme here today for the Mazda CX-30, because today we're going old school. We have a small vehicle, but with a large engine displacement-wise, even larger now with this very update here. And we also have a manual gearbox here today exclusively for you. And let's see if this old school concept works or works even better than some of the new ideas here out there. I'm Thomas, this is Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the CX-30, which has this still modern look in the front, so they haven't changed much with the exterior of the vehicle. Here in this case a high trim level, high gloss black, and optional you can also get matrix LED in this round daytime running light scheme. The length at 4 meters 40 or 173 inches, wheels either 16 or directly jumping to 18-inch wheels, the ones you can also see here. So this is then connected to a higher trim, and typically for the CX-30 are these really large crossover wheel arches. A Mazda 3, for example, would be the non-SUV brother, so to speak, with a similar size. And we also already have a comparison episode if you are undecided between these two vehicles. We can also link it at the end of the video. Towards the rear, the tail lamps still have a contemporary design here, once again with the round structure. And this nice color here for today is called ceramic, actually. So it is bright ceramic white. Yeah, I don't see a white though. I see more a ceramic gray, honestly. Yeah, but definitely works. And on the technology side, it gets even now more interesting. So this one here is a front-wheel drive vehicle. The whole platform is also front-wheel drive. There are also all-wheel drive versions available. And there's now a difference between the Northern American market and the European market, actually. So on the Northern American market, you already got the 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine, and optionally even with a turbo. That is even more uncommon here for us Europeans. And so far we had a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine in that one as a base engine. And now that one, where is it? Where is the precious? There it is. So there we go. So this new entry-level engine is indeed now also the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine, naturally aspirated, and with 140 horsepower, front-wheel drive, manual or automatic. And that is very uncommon. So today in the European market, there is no other vehicle at this size here which has this engine. And this very engine is also used in the very large Mazda models. So yeah, I'm really excited to drive this one here for you today. As I said, Northern American market also get a 2.5, but then with higher horsepower counts and also with an optional turbo. We also have the inserts for you, but also in the video description and the comment we have also the engine specs if you want to read them later. And the alternative to this one here on the European market would also be a Skyactiv X. That's a petrol with like a compressor ignition, so to speak. And that one also has even more horsepower, also available with all-wheel drive, so it would be quicker. But this one here to me is more interesting because there's no replacement for displacement. Or is there? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Thomas's Turning Indicator Show. Today they're down there. I mean, yeah, slim, nice integration, but it's really low, right? So I doubt that everyone could see that, you know, when you're turning somewhere and should be better up here. Or what the indicators in the rear? Well, it has this bulb design on the one hand. Then again, I feel that it is something nice when you have it like inside the round one. So, but then again, also not that visible from the size. So yeah, it has pro and con. To show you a different color here, the Mazda red colors are always very striking, really present. That's why I also love it in red. Let's go to the interior. First of all, door closing sound. The front is quite nice. Just here from the door handles, like they snap back really quickly, and then you feel that inside of the doors, or like at this area, could be a little bit more dampening. Rear doors. Here from the closing sound, again, it's good. Just see again, like this snapping is really loud. Then let's check it out inside of the doors. And by the way, it's the key fob here. Yeah, this is rather cheap, honestly. So yeah, nothing special, let's take it that way. But this is pretty cool. It's not that soft, however, you have a nice leather-like structure, so a leatherette look, so to speak. And this is actually nicely done. Here's then a little bit softer also for your elbow when you are on longer trips. This combination here is brown to black. You don't have to go for it because, yeah, that you have to like it. Let's take it that way. Hardback here at the inside of the doors. And then also have a nice entry badge. That looks cool. And the steering wheel, always, I feel with this Mazda generation is really spot on. It has the right size. You still have the real buttons here for the volume control, for example, at the steering wheel. And it directly looks modern and sporty, but not over the top, you know what I mean? And no hashtag capacitive controls. Seats are available in fabric, leatherette or animal skin, depending on the trim level. This is then here the animal sourced seats. I would also go for the fabric seats because they are more breathable and a little bit softer from the surface actually, and you save money. Then here 189, 6'2", still leave some headroom left, and you have fairly good ergonomics actually. The steering wheel, manual control, in, out, up and down. And this car is relatively easy to control, so it's one of the rare straightforward cars there left on the road. Cockpit overview, everything pretty clean first hand. 10.25 inch here in this height trims, like a horizontal format with some software updates then in the infotainment now. And we have here soft touch dashboard. That's actually quite nice. Also some stitching on top right there. Then the glove box could be dampened a little bit more, definitely. It's just like in the very top area or something like that. Then we still have a manual climate unit. That's what I love. Also with this like galvanized metal knurling style around here for the temperature. This then here for the fan speed. So this is a pretty lovely feature indeed. And also seat heating here when the engine is running, separate control. I also want to show you how it looks like here. This is when you have a manual gearbox, by the way. So here with the Skyactiv X engine in this very interior, and the Mazda manuals, I have to say. Usually I have to say like manuals are gone, basically. Automatic is just more relaxing and more comfortable. But the Mazda manuals are really very crisp and fun to drive, gotta say that. Here, rest of the middle console. You have some adaptive couplers in the front. Here's also an inductive charging pad, but this has no cooling whatsoever. Volume jog here is another one, and you can also control the infotainment system there from below, because this screen on the top in the Mazda menu is actually not a touchscreen unless you are in the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto mode. And then here, this middle armrest also soft, and then you slide it back, and when you have slid it back, then you can also fold it up. Gotta know that mechanism though, yeah. And then they have updated to USB-C chargers then here on the inside, and yeah, reasonable space as well. Also new software feature here with this update, if you have the voice assistant from Amazon, not mentioning it yet. It might get activated now when I also mention it, but there's no other way I could show this to you now. So everyone who is using the Amazon voice assistant, which name I don't speak out yet, pay attention right now, because I want to show you how it is integrated right here. You will also see this bar on the top here. Hey Alexa, what's the weather in Berlin?
Right now in Berlin, Germany, it's 14 degrees Celsius with mostly cloudy skies.
Okay.
Today's
And then I also want to try if the temperature setting is working. So I'm setting it to 20. Now I want to go back to 22. Hey Alexa, set temperature to 22 degrees.
Okay, setting it to 20.
There we go. I mean, so the special thing here is that they have this integration that you can already change vehicle functions over this Amazon voice assistant. I'm not saying it again that it doesn't get activated for you at home, maybe if you have it. So once again, but good that they made another step that you can not only like use the normal online features, but also that there's a connection to the car, also maybe to like seat heating and steering wheel heating and so on. Good control here of the steering wheel here, also for the cruise control. Then these instruments, they are actually pretty interesting. So at this moment it looks analog, but it's actually not. So when I turn everything off, there you can see it is digital, and I found it kind of cool, I have to say, because I like the analog style. Yet again, you have digital functions, and yeah, you can switch through different modes here for example.
So
Why
my
not?
door's open.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Then there's the head-up display available and the main infotainment screen like this. So here at the moment I'm controlling it from below because once again, no touch then, only in the CarPlay mode. And a very important button is this one here, because then you see it right here as well, if it's activated or not. There we go. This one deactivates the speed limit chime, and also here when the traffic sign recognition changes, so it changes this annoying beeping. And your special LIA feature for today. Ooh, that's cool. For your sunglasses, for example. There we go. Special storage there in the top. Although it's a tiny car, has some features like that. Rear seats, first of all, inside of the doors is nicely structured here. It's not too soft, but nicely structured, definitely. Then also here with separate window lever, it looks nice, but then hardback in the lower part. We also have a rear entry badge here, CX-30. That's pretty neat, isn't it? And let's see here, we have Isofix on the outside parts each. These clips here, however, they don't fold or something. You just have to like totally remove them. Here in the middle part, you can fold down the armrest. This is also somewhat adaptive with these lips then here. And you can fold 1/3, 2/3, and there's like this button here on the top. So yeah, when you don't really see it, it's kind of hard to miss. It's like here, yeah, there it is. Like this button you have to press in. I feel like lever solutions are a little bit easier to handle. Then as for the headroom here with 189, 6'2", that's fine. So tall adults can sit as for the height. Just the legroom is the limitation right here when a tall driver is driving. So after all, it's a small vehicle, but considering it's a small vehicle, it's actually a good offering of space still. Just that like a tall person doesn't fit really behind a tall person. And then here, there's a significant middle tunnel as well. You have like this vent control here, that's it. Nothing more. Yeah, I think most of the time it does the job. Can't expect too much then as for the size of the vehicle, but for that it does it actually quite well. Let's check out the trunk. It's 430 liters or 20 cubic feet. We also have an electric hatch available here, and cabin trolley also fits underneath vertically, no problem. Then first of all, the basic measurements. The length is like 80 centimeters and the width about a meter or 40 inches. 80 centimeters here, by the way, about 32 inches. And you can see here, these are kind of like splitters and they fold up sideways. That's interesting, isn't it? So usually it's like, it's interesting. Usually it's always like that you put them like this, you know, but here you can put them to the side, and why not? And then you can lift up this one. Here, for example, we have the subwoofer in this case. So yeah, why not actually? And then you can lift them up here once again. It's like maybe a little bit like Japanese origami style, something like that. Folding the seats here like this. So this is then the total length, the seats as we are driving, and this is like 1.55 meters or 61 inches. Here, when I'm driving here as a tall person, then you can see this side here I could only fold if I put the driver's seat front, then move it back, and then put the seat back again. And by the way, what I also want to show you, this is something they need to work on, like the connection here between the back of the seat and the trunk. This is always a little bit weirdo, let's take it that way. There we go. High displacement, manual shifting here today, also in the driving part, exclusively for you. And soon we head on to the German Autobahn to do some acceleration tests. This one here with a manual version is actually quicker, 9.7 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. Yeah, not the quickest one definitely, but it's actually 0.6 seconds quicker than it would be with the automatic version, which is of course better than for traffic jam and so on. But as I said earlier in the interior part, the Mazda manuals are really cool. So when you hammer in the gears, it's really fun to shift them. And although this might not be the sportiest vehicle ever, it feels kind of sporty and agile. It is a small SUV. It doesn't feel too high as well. Yes, it looks like SUV crossover on the outside, but you don't sit too high overall when you feel it here in the driving part. So it still feels kind of sporty. A Mazda 3 would feel a little bit sportier. Yeah, that's definitely the case. But this one here yeah, I would say rather still is in this crossover direction than being like a full-size SUV or something like that from the feeling in general. Then let's get to the motorway. Suspension here with the big wheels, kind of rough sometimes. There's no special adaptive suspension available here or something, and yeah, you feel that more comfort would be with the 16-inch, and that's now. So we're 50 kilometers an hour. Let's accelerate it out. Woo!
Woo!
Yeah, that's the shifting experience. 150 kilometers an hour. There we go, little fella. Give us the boost, y'all. 170 kilometers an hour. Soon, that's almost top speed already. Yeah, now not more is coming, but the car feels really nice here. Also
so
at high
silent. Wow.
Yeah, it's not too loud from the installation, and here also when I do some lane change at high speeds, it feels really nice and smooth and sporty. And here, for example, also the bigger wheels kind of help me a little bit to give more feeling for the road and so on. But I really have to say it is a lot of driving fun, and even at higher speeds. So that's pretty cool, definitely. So now I think we almost at top speed. Really nice, more than 180 kilometers an hour. Here the brakes, yeah, they like to be hammered, definitely. There we go. Reducing the speed. Whew, nice. Back to the, Leah is also enjoying that one. And look at that vehicle from the outside, and you maybe not expect that. Yes, not great acceleration, not the greatest performance, but it is fun to drive. And that's also a huge difference. You've maybe seen our recent episodes with the large new Mazda SUVs, like the CX-80, CX-60, corresponding CX-70 and CX-90 in the US. And they are not that much fun to drive. They lack to me this typical Mazda driving fun experience, and we do have that here with the CX-30. That's pretty cool. And I can just confirm, once again, when you have a manual gearbox here with the Mazdas is a lot of fun. So one of the very rare vehicles which I say like, hey, just go for the manual, you'll enjoy it actually. There's not like much, like unpleasant resistance, but there is a fun resistance in the shifting here. And when you put them in, you always have the feeling like, oh, I'm on the racetrack, I'm driving a great sports car, and you put in the stick then, and it's just giving you a very pleasant feedback. That's really the thing. Also the steering here is really precise. It feels extremely natural. So you know exactly what you're doing with that steering here, and you don't have the feeling you are driving a computer game or something like that. So shifting and steering is always top notch then here. So what about this new engine and also the differences, especially on the European market? Because remember, on the US market, you have this engine without mild hybrid and also in higher horsepower specs, or option also with a turbo. Here in Europe, you had it before as a 2-liter engine, now more displacement. And the difference is that you have more torque at lower RPM. So when you're like at really high RPM levels, then for example also like this compressor engine is better. But here, when you have high displacement and not too much horsepower than on paper, the thing is here when you are in the city, for example, or like in this mid-region, and you don't rev the engine up too much, then it is actually more responsive and more fun. And in everyday driving life, this giving you like a feeling of, like it's more effortless. So here, for example, I can leave it in the 3rd gear even sometimes and really use low RPM. That is what you feel when you have high displacement. Here, by the way, when the ram to the motorway is a little bit destroyed, suspension-wise, it's doing a nice job, unless everything is even. Now, like transverse joint, you do feel it notably. So always when you have like some destroyed roads, then the suspension is getting kind of rough here, especially in the combination with the 18-inch wheels. So back to the engine. What I really appreciate about that, you can really keep it at low RPM, and it's giving you a lot of Laufkultur, like the like the literal translation would be like running culture, like how cultivated the engine is literally. And that's pretty cool, right? So you don't, I mean, we did the acceleration test there, yes, but you don't feel the urge to do that all the time. The thing that you enjoy more is really driving it calmly, let that bigger displacement work for you and so on. On paper, by the way, as for the consumption figures, the difference to the outgoing model is that in city traffic, this one can be a little bit more fuel consuming, mid-level than, so maybe a little bit better than before, and actually at higher speeds on the Autobahn, on the motorway, there this new engine is actually better because at higher speeds it can also run at lower RPM levels, and that is something good, and also something I have been saying for a long time. With this downsizing curse that has been going around, it's not always a good thing for the economy or even ecological, because like these really, really small turbo engines, they might be good on paper, but then they need to run like really, really, really high RPM, and then they are actually not better in the consumption. So this year, another measure they did for right sizing, and they can also score the okay CO2 values that the others can also score. So I think that's actually a cool choice. So I can just confirm that it drives way better now with the new engine. This there's no replacement for displacement. It's still somewhat true. Do you remember the German term for that? Hubraum ist durch nichts zu ersetzen. Listen and repeat. Hubraum ist durch nichts zu ersetzen. Yeah, and we can just confirm that, and it's a really rare feeling that we have such a small vehicle and we have this high displacement for such a small vehicle here, and that's pretty cool. So this is now a very unique offering on the market. No other vehicle that is being offered on the European market does offer you that combination. Like, oh, that looks fun. So this small vehicle, but at the same time you have this big engine under the hood, and I mean it's not tuned to the max with this 140 horsepower. This also tells you something about longevity. So it is reliable when you have a lot of displacement, while you have low horsepower. That's always a good thing. This one here in the European version is also good with the mild hybrid system. That means when I'm on the brake, and we also have some regenerative braking, so we can gain back some of the energy. And also when I accelerate again, for example, then we can also have like a very short electric boost, so to speak. You don't feel much from the system, honestly. Yeah, they do that they can score some better consumption figures on paper. It will also help you in real life a little bit, but it will not be the most crucial thing as for that. So yeah, in all the driving characteristics, how you shift the vehicle, steer it, and so on, is once again really, really good. Of course, at some point, when you sit down statically, you feel like everything is fine for tall adults. You also have enough space over your head and so on. But I gotta say, when I drive it a little bit longer, especially here, this seat configuration, not the most comfortable one for tall drivers, so has indeed some limits. Might be better with the fabric or the leatherette seats, for example. Gotta maybe try that at a later stage, for example. Here also, when we have to drive really slowly in the city, even then the shifting is fun, actually, and you can actually decide in which gear you are. And the cool thing here about this high displacement is it does not really care so much which gear you are in. So here at the moment, 30 kilometers an hour, second gear, but it's actually fine even when I'm in the third gear. And the engine is not annoyed by that or starts to stutter or something like that. Let's see, when I put it just in the fourth gear, even that works. When I'm slightly on throttle, that's by the way here the speed camera, that's why I should stick to that speed. But that's the cool thing here about the high displacement. You can drive 30 kilometers an hour in a small car here with fourth gear, and the vehicle is not complaining about that. It's like, hey, okay, we drive it calmly at under 1,000 RPM, and there's nothing wrong with that, So that's probably the coolest thing about that one here. And of course, since we have this small size here, You can also do actions like this in the roundabout, out again, torque steer here with the steering wheel. It feels really nice and agile, so you get this typical sporty Mazda feeling, and that's just lovely in the whole drive here. And the realistic average consumption here for today is around 7 liters normal kilometers, so 34 mpg US and 41 mpg UK. Pricing on the Northern American market, $25,000 up to 37,000 euros if you really high spec it here, so to speak. And in Germany, for example, the European price 29,000 euros up to 43,000 euros. So still interesting in the pricing, not too much. It's also not too large. It's very versatile also when you drive it in the city and so on. A little bit higher seating position, easier to get in and out if you compare it, for example, to a Mazda 3. The seating comfort for tall drivers could be a little bit better, I feel. That's maybe the one thing. However, driving-wise, that is really excellent. And I love the higher displacement engine concept. You can drive it at low RPM. It just feels, more refined in a way, more cultivated, and it gives you calmness. I mean, this is not the performance engine. It takes almost 10 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour with the automatic. Even more than that. But this is not about it. It's about that you can feel the high displacement. And I love the manual gearbox here as well. They can really hammer in the gears. So in this case, I think it's good to go old school. Also, if you consider like real buttons on the steering wheel and so on. So some things are good to be old school. Other things you should go with a more modern concept. For example, yes, I can understand the safety logic with the non-touchscreen, but then only allowing the touchscreen for the Apple CarPlay, but then not for the Mazda internal system. And when you try to put in the GPS address, that won't work ever, So I think there you should give the customer a free choice anyways, So definitely a very interesting mix. And yes, when you look at this vehicle here, if you compare to other all-new vehicles, it might seem outdated at some point, But then the question is, are you really okay with everything that is in new cars there? And some things are maybe over the top. And then sometimes it's also good to take a step back, and that's actually what the CX-30 is doing in that respect. What do you think about it? Tell me in the comments, and also enjoy more Mazda reviews here on Autogefühl.